Bill Maher goes on The View and absolutely destroys Sunny Hostin to her face as she tries to defend the anti-American woke lunacy philosophy that the left has adopted. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. You know it helps me out a ton, but let's start by hearing Sunny's defense of why woke is actually a great thing.
Well, I had a different question, but it struck me that in the first segment you used the term woke and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything, and I know that you're
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and
migrate.
So why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice, who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want,
Okay.
because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know, want to call it the super far left, but don't tell me the left
Or maybe the super far right.
Well, he's
Well,
talking about the left. Well, then,
okay.
So I hear this argument from the left all the time. They say, no, woke means you're compassionate, you're empathetic, you care about people, you want to fight against the systemic injustices. But that was just the lipstick they put on the ideology to disguise what it really was, which was communist Marxist ideology. And instead of making the fight about social classes, they instead made it about ethnic groups and victimhood status. And in Marxism, the virtuous ones are the working class, fighting against the oppressive ruling class. And in wokeness, it's a select hand-picked group of races that are the virtuous ones, fighting against the white colonizer, the oppressor. It was just a way to push a radical political ideology at the expense of social cohesion. The United States had already worked through all of its racial differences. By the 90s and 2000s, racism was essentially gone. It wasn't a thing anybody talked about. And this is why wokeism is so evil, because it convinced and manipulated people that there's actually encrypted racism in every single aspect of American society. Even though all of us experienced a black president elected twice by a country majority white, woke will have you believe that we're actually no better off than we were in the Jim Crow South. Now listen to Bill Maher give Sunny a picture-perfect example of just how delusional and idiotic the whole woke movement got with its perceived virtueness.
We used to do, well, you did it. I was a guest on what was the homeless show? Comic Relief.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
You were, great show.
Yeah.
And homeless was a term that I thought we kind of came up with because people were calling them bums and
Yes.
vagrants and hobos.
Yeah, now that's
homeless.
the word.
Now,
No, it's unhoused.
Well, it's
now.
people
Unhoused.
experiencing
Now it's unhoused.
homelessness. But they're experiencing it on the street.
Yeah.
Okay, the liberal view of that was, for compassion's sake, we're the liberals, we're compassionate. Let's get these people off the street.
Yeah.
That's not the view of the, whatever word we're going to come up with for this. Their view of the homeless is they're an endangered species that needs to be protected in their natural habitat. Living their best life under a bridge.
Yeah.
You know, that to me is crazy. That's the kind of things, I haven't changed on that. I still think we should get these people off the street. That's
Yes.
the compassion sake. So I didn't change, they changed, and there's lots of examples of that.
That same philosophy he's describing is what led to the rise in mental illness and trans ideology. At one point, being compassionate was saying, this person has problems, let's help them. But then wokeism turned being compassionate into not being able to criticize, not being able to deem anything that would end up in the victim bucket as bad or needing change. So where someone would once say, hey, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're not the opposite gender. Let's try to figure out what's making you feel this way so you can feel better. They now say, no, there's nothing wrong with this person. It's completely normal. Their delusion is real. And the only reason you'd have a problem with it is because you're a white supremacist oppressor. And you trying to get them to change their way of life makes them a victim. And if they're a victim, that means they can do no wrong. That means they can't be corrected. That means they have the superior worldview. And because wokeism is predicated around believing things that aren't real, that kind of delusional anti-reality worldview fit right at home with that movement. Wokeism tries to make things more complicated and convoluted than they need to be, because the easy, simple, basic truth directly contradicts any woke beliefs. We've had a black president, therefore America isn't racist. Men cannot be women. These concepts are simple and easy to understand. Wokeism relies on gaslighting you and saying because you don't have the plethora of useless degrees as these people who champion woke ideology, that somehow it's actually a topic that you just can't comprehend and don't understand the true meaning of because you aren't educated enough. So after Bill Maher gave Sonny that epic example, she responds by saying, "Oh, Bill, you've changed," and he claps back. Watch.
See, I think we're tribal now, which is not good, and I think there's 4 tribes. Basically, there's old school liberals, which I would mostly count myself as, old school conservatives. There's still some of those
You've
left.
changed, though.
Wait, what are the other two?
Go ahead.
What are the other two?
Well, that's what I. Well, that's what I was trying to find out in this book. I don't think
Yeah.
I have. And you know, we were saying in the break we have to come up with a new word for woke. Let's have a contest because this is a word that's triggering. But
So people like Sonny Hostin embody the entire Democrat Party. They, in their pursuit of fake kindness, fake compassion, fake virtue, have pulled the entire Democrat Party into far left delusion. And they've abandoned just regular moderate liberals like Bill Maher. I also know plenty of these people, old traditional liberals, who just because they deviate with one particular philosophy or ideology of the left are completely ostracized. This delusional philosophy led the left to thinking that open borders were a kind and compassionate thing because America is a white country where colonizers were oppressive, were evil, were built on violence and genocide. So we have a moral obligation to give the third world, which is brown, which are the victims, which are the oppressed, which are the exploited, free reign to come into our country and milk every single one of our social welfare services that are intended for struggling Americans. It led them to believing that men beating up on women in sports was actually inclusive. And if you didn't agree with that, you were a bigot. And because their ideals are fundamentally Marxist, it relies on a central government that controls every aspect of people's lives. So when Trump ran against dismantling this authoritarian bureaucratic state, they weaponized the justice system. They tried to put this guy in jail because he was a threat to their Marxist totalitarian rule. The left's philosophy relies on everyone feeling so much guilt and shame that they allow these things to happen. Trump was telling people, no, you should be proud to be an American. Forget everything these people are saying. This is when Bill Maher drops an absolute truth bomb on them, stating that this fake pursuit of compassion and equality and oppressor and oppressed has led to the woke left supporting terrorist groups like Hamas.
What do you make of this moment? What do you think it's a result of? How do we fix it?
well, I mean, it's just astounding to me that they can't tell the good guys from the bad guys. I mean, just morally. I mean, let me tell you, if you're for Hamas, just live in Gaza for a day. And I'm not talking about while the war is on. I mean, before the war. Trust me, you would go running and screaming and begging to live in Tel Aviv, a place that has your values. I mean, women have no, I mean, this is a show watched by a lot of women. Women have no rights in this place. And a lot of majority Muslim countries around the world. I mean, there is no equal rights as far as speech, dress, opportunities for education, reproductive rights, freedom from sexual violence, freedom from sexual harassment.
The LGBTQ community as well.
Yes.
That too.
It's so hypocritical that the woke left, who champions all these ideas of virtue and inclusion and equality and tolerance and progressiveness, are supporting a group that fundamentally rejects all of those concepts. But because they hold a worldview where white people are bad and brown people can do no wrong, because they're not really about all those virtues they pretend to be about, all the woke left movement is about is radical racism and a Marxist system based on that racism. And Sunny proves my point perfectly as she claps back asking, well, what about all of the innocent Palestinians that have been killed? Watch.
Are you at all concerned about the innocent civilians that have been collectively punished and murdered, largely children and women? And are you at all concerned about the fact that the International Criminal Court just today issued a subpoena for Bibi Netanyahu?
Well, that's ridiculous, but it's a war.
Why?
It's a war. Because it's a war, and they were attacked, and they're defending themselves. Now, this is a war. Do you think Hamas needs to be destroyed? This is the question.
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
So how can we do that with a ceasefire?
All right. So Hamas needs to be destroyed because they are a terrorist organization who say openly that they want to commit genocide on the Jewish people, on the state of Israel. That's what from the river to the sea means, okay? And they say it very openly. They said, we did this attack. They've attacked Israel 5 times. They've started 5 wars since they were given that land back. They could have chosen to turn that place into any place they wanted to, and they took a lot of money that they took from the international community, and they spent it on bombs and guns and building tunnels.
The ironic thing about all of this is never until this particular war was any kind of compassion mandated in any war fighting. I mean, the Allies absolutely bombed all of Germany until they surrendered. Germany bombed all of Britain. America dropped 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Cities, not even military installations. Why? Because war is brutal. And that's why we don't want to fight it. But Israel, for some reason, was handcuffed in its ability to fight this war effectively and bring it to a conclusive end. And the woke left doesn't even realize that this compassion that they're offering for these terrorist groups, saying, oh, you shouldn't really attack them because, you know, they're in civilian areas, they're under hospitals, they're under schools, is the exact kind of delusional compassion that Hamas is relying on. They're hoping they can commit the atrocities of October 7th, take hostages, put them in tunnels underneath Gaza, and then cry and play victim when Israel bombs them to smithereens, trying to get the terrorists who hide behind their own civilians in hopes that nobody will respond or react to them. If you incentivize that kind of behavior, it just encourages terrorists to do the same thing again and again and again. But if the left keeps doing what they're doing, eventually there's going to be nobody other than the extremely delusional, radical, Sunny Hostins of the world. And that's it. Anybody with a shred of rationality will see that the Democrats have become so disconnected from reality that you quite literally have to adopt a delusional worldview in every aspect of their philosophy. And there are not enough of those people for the Democrats to win any kind of elections. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this absolute brutal takedown by Bill Maher, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.